All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba. You can pick up a six-pack of Johnny Cuba right now. Your local Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas. You know that's how I enjoy Thursday Night Football tonight, sitting on the couch in the Zaslow Mansion family room in my underwear holding a Johnny Cuba. European roots with a Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Make sure you always drink responsibly. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Our pal is ESPN's Israel Gutierrez, who was on the Inter Miami beat last night at Drive Pink Stadium last night. Does it feel to you like the run is kind of over? Like, are we going to see Messi again this year? I don't know. It's been good. It's been great. It's been so much fun. But I felt like it kind of felt like maybe it's coming to an end for now.
No, I felt like there was a little bit of letting go of the rope from the Inter Miami guys, because I think that was always going to be there if they fell behind early in this game, because it's okay. Yeah, I know this game means a lot. We definitely want to raise this trophy, but we don't have Leo. We don't have Jordy. Things are probably not going to, things have to go perfectly for us to win this game, essentially, and didn't. And so, first half, kind of let go of the rope a little bit. Second half, press, get a goal in, whatever. Not the end of the world. Like, they didn't look devastated afterward. I still think that they think if Leo needs a couple of games, okay, they can beat New York City. They've beaten, they got that point against Orlando, which is a great result when you don't have Leo or Jordy. And so I think the playoff run is still real. And if you look at the schedule, I think Cincinnati's the only game where they probably feel like they need him to win. And so, it might be where he wasn't ready yet, but that it's not necessarily a long-term thing. I've heard some rumblings that it might be a couple weeks, and if it's a few weeks and that's the season, but it might not be. It might not be. It could be inaccurate. So, I think there's still reason to be hopeful. It does feel like there was a lot of Messi fans, not Miami fans, Messi fans who were just bummed out last night.
Yeah, it sucks. All right. So you get the news yesterday afternoon. Damian Lillard comes out.
Then I handed it to Woj.
Yes.
And then he did it. He took it from there.
Yes. at around 2:30 p.m., you get the news like everybody else that Damian Lillard is going to Milwaukee.
Yep.
And your initial thought was what?
My initial thought was, okay, let's see what the agent response is and see if he's going to demand a trade out of Milwaukee like he said he would. And then once it was, hey, Miami tried, thanks for your efforts, I realized, okay, they're not going to get that trade demand, which just made me wonder, okay, was it Miami being, egotistical when it came to their offer, or was it Portland just not wanting to give in to Damian Lillard's demand? And when you look at the reporting that's been done that you trust, and that's ESPN, that's Shams, that's everybody so far, it seems like Miami had a decent package that included Tyler Heroes, and that Portland wanted as a starting point, according to Shams, Jimmy or Bam. Well, we all knew that wasn't going to happen. And whether you think, I had somebody ask me earlier today if they should have given up Bam for Dame. And I'm just like, no, like that's not the possibility here. They're not a desperate team for a star. They're a desperate team for a finishing piece. And it happens to be that Damian Lillard was a player that was on the go, and they made a run for him. But you're not going to give up Jimmy or Bam for this. You just got to the finals with them. Okay. And a bunch of players that this is an insult to them, but created out of thin air by NBA standards. And so, no, you're not going to give up the farm for Damian Lillard and that contract that's just going to get worse and worse. And so my thought on this is, if you're Portland, why was this the guy that you decided to take a stand on with player empowerment? Because I know there's been others like Kawhi. Okay. I would take a quick pause there and say that had more to do with the injury situation. And if you're the Spurs, you have a lot of latitude there. You have a lot of slack to get away with. Hey, we treat our players great. Go ask Tim Duncan. Go ask Manu Ginobili. Go ask Tony. So if you are the one example of somebody that, hey, we didn't do what you wanted to do, all right, the Spurs get a little better for the doubt there. Portland, why? Like, are they digging their feet in saying, hey, we are going to stand up for the rest of the league against player empowerment, and there's front offices everywhere that are giving them a round of applause. The NBA is like privately, woof, that's really good, because maybe some of these other guys won't demand trades because they'll ship them to Milwaukee. Even though and so if you look at Portland, they're just like, hey, we did everything he wanted. We did everything you could ask for a player who's leaving. We gave him, sent him to a championship caliber team with, let's be honest, a player that everybody thinks is better than Jimmy Butler in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So there is no real argument against you treating Dame like trash. No, you just didn't send him to the one place he wanted to go. And so you can make an argument on all sides of this. To me, it's just strange that that's the route they went when you look at the deals and you're just like, Like, I don't know what they think of DeAndre Ayton, but I don't think he is a multiple-time All-Star. Okay. And you could say the same thing about Tyler Hero if you really wanted to. But they were pretty much as close as the other one was to making an All-Star game over the last couple of years. So it really just matters a matter of, okay, were you taking a stand against Damian Lillard, your own guy? And if that's what happened, then that's just a terrible look for them. Is it going to cost them free agents in the future? Yeah, probably. But did they get a bunch of free agents anyway? No. So I don't know what the result is.
So do you think they went with what they believe is the best deal, or did they go with not Miami?
I mean, it depends on if you give them truth serum. I think they probably went with not Miami, but I also think maybe they just have bad basketball opinions. Like the idea that DeAndre Ayton is the better piece. Okay, you can make that.
No, but you still get, like, Ayton's still there if it's Miami instead of Milwaukee. Like that part of the deal is not affected. You're still getting Ayton.
That's true. It felt like more of a non-Miami thing. Now, how desperate are people to get Drew Holiday here? We're about to find out, but you're also putting yourself in a terrible negotiation stance there, because everybody knows you're trying to flip him, and that you keeping him as a failure in your Damian Lillard trade because you're doing nothing with him at age 33. And so it doesn't really put them in a position where they're going to get this windfall that Miami wasn't offering. Now, again, I think there's different reports on what Miami offered, but if they offered, essentially the picks that they can offer and swaps, then it's probably going to be even better than what you're going to get for Drew Holiday. Because like the championship desperate teams, Boston can get in there, but unless they're giving you all their assets, like, Malcolm Brogdon isn't really a piece that makes you excited. So it's sort of an incomplete assessment from Portland's side. If they end up getting all those assets for a Drew Holiday and it looks like top to bottom, at least an even trade, okay, great. Then they did what they think is probably best for their organization. But currently, it appears that there was at least a decent amount of not Miami, just because that would have made them look weak in this exchange.
So if that's the case, there's no real reason to believe that the Heat are going to be able to get in on Drew Holiday now, right?
Well, I've heard that one of the first calls that Portland did make was to Miami and say, hey, what do you want for Drew? Whether or not they actually answered the phone or they got the right person on the phone is a totally different question. I tend to believe that if, all things being equal, if there are no hurt feelings involved, Miami would be intrigued by the addition of Drew Holiday. But again, they're not going to give up a whole lot for it. Like if you want those draft picks, yeah, maybe. But if you want those draft picks and now you're asking for Caleb Martin on top of it,
no,
probably not. No, probably not. And it is, the Heat do need, or would look like they need, a starting point guard, because right now Tyler Hero is that person. You can't go backward on Kyle Lowry and now make him a starter again. So they are desperate for a starting point guard, so that could be a marriage. But that's one bruised ego and one sort of lording, overly powerful guy right now, and Joe Cronin, who is probably not going to create a good trade partner right now. But if they do that, it would make it laughable, all this talk about how, there was a standoff and they don't like each other yet. If they ended up just, hey, it's business and now we're going to make another business deal, it's just like everybody can kind of just shut up for a little bit. But I just don't think that's going to happen.
Do you think the result of of Portland not wanting to deal with Miami. Like, what would the end result here have been different if the agent wasn't so loud in the very beginning about only Miami?
No. I think the end result would have been different if they would have been louder, frankly. If the reports are true that Toronto pulled away because Damian said Miami only, then my guess is Milwaukee probably had more of an assurance that he wouldn't bail. And if you're like in the history of this league, like if you're looking at the situation, of course you're going to be like Toronto. They're not ready. They're not ready with championships. Probably get the same deal as
Yeah, just stay in Portland if you're going to go to Toronto.
Yeah, Milwaukee, and if Damian and his agent maybe shook a little bit or cowered a little bit in this standoff and said, fine, maybe Milwaukee, as long as you don't, strip them bare, then yeah, I think he probably gave a decent nod over there. And it's not, it's not just, hey, we're going to screw you over.
The Heat fans, plenty of Heat fans are upset. Could the Heat have done anything to make this deal happen?
I mean, short of giving up Bam, doesn't feel like it. They had reportedly a third team in the deal, fourth team in the deal, and could get Portland more of what they wanted. I think if they didn't do everything possible, I don't think Goodwin would have put out that tweet saying Miami did everything that they could. It just wasn't going to happen. And you look at I look at Miami and I say, it drives me nuts where people, not just outside of Miami, it's inside of Miami, the people that drive me nuts, where it's just like complaining about the failures. And it's just
ingrates.
While they've been whiffing on all these big names, they've only been playing until June. Like, it's only been one season where they didn't do that. One season into October, but
they're like the winningest. They're like the winningest team over the last 9 years or something like that.
It's crazy, and not just in the Eastern Conference, but in this area, in this market. Like, have some perspective. Like, you and I are old enough to remember where it's just like years of, even when Dwayne was here, it's a couple of years of first round exits and no playoffs, and it's like, man, that sucks. Got a great player, can't win anything. And then here you are without the big name players. You just want to complain about Bam and not recognize that you're in the NBA Finals. I think it's ridiculous. And so I look at it as it sets up for this, the Miami Heat inner circle, so small, right? Us against the world. That thing's going to get even tighter and angrier. And it's just going to be like, you didn't believe in us again. And so whether or not that actually works, you want to look at the roster and say, hey, it's not as good. You lost starters and Gabe and Max. Okay. I don't think the roster is completely done now, right? If you didn't get Dame, you're probably going to move on and try to find another piece. Nikola Jovic looks really good. I don't know what you have in Jaquez Jr., but I think you've got a rotation of players that just got you to the NBA Finals, and maybe a healthy and better Tyler Hero and a different type of dude in Jovic who can do a lot of things out there. If nothing else, just be another spot up guy for you. You got Duncan Robinson in GTFOH mode, who's just going to do, whatever, like take every shot and probably shoot 40% from it. It's going to be a good team if they're healthy. So like the idea that you don't recognize that is it's frustrating.
Do the Heat have to have a conversation with Tyler Hero? Because, I'm listening to starting lineup on NBA radio this morning with Isola and Scalabrini, which I listen every morning. And you get one guy who calls up, and it's like, if the Heat think Tyler Hero's so good, why do they try to trade him every year? They haven't tried to trade him. They have included him in two offers, one for Lillard, the other for Kevin Durant. It's like when Lamar Odom was upset that the Heat traded him. Lamar, they traded you for Shaq, so like, do the Heat have to mend any fences here with Tyler Hero?
The way I look at it is you're being offered for two All-NBA first team caliber players.
Hall of Famers.
Hall of Famers, probably double-digit All-Star games maybe by the time they retire, maybe. Probably not for Damian, actually, never mind. And it tells you what Miami Heat thinks of you if you are the primary piece in those trade offers.
That's true. That's a good point.
What they say, about you, I don't think is all lip service. I do believe they see him, they see the hard work. Like that's the one thing that being a Miami Heat player, like they're not gonna sugarcoat it if you don't work your ass off. And this dude works his ass off, and just happened to be unfortunate. Like a broken hand is the most unfortunate kind of injury you can think of that late in this. It's not a wear and tear injury. It's dude landed on me while I was hustling.
Yeah,
exactly. And so you can't really combine his last two postseasons and say, oh, injury prone in the postseason, because this was a freak injury. And so, yeah, I think they probably have to mend a little bit of fences. But the first thing I say is look, you're not the best player that this has happened to, where your name's been out there and you have to mend fences. Hell, I mean, Ray Allen was already an established Hall of Famer and won a championship with Boston when his name was out there constantly and was not getting traded. And he had to go back and be like, did Danny Ainge, what the hell's going on? And so, I think there's a little bit of ego to be massaged. But if you're Tyler Hero, there is only one way to recover from this, regardless of what the result would have been, whether he'd been traded to Portland, San Antonio, stayed here. The only way he looks good in this is if he has a great season. And in Miami, he knows his role. He knows he can hit the ground running, take advantage of whatever he got better at, and, probably be a borderline all-star this year. And I think when he looks at it that way, where he doesn't have to change everything about what he's doing, living, training, and game planning, and not adjust to any of that, and have the people in your organization think you are that person, as opposed to going to a place where they think you're a role player, etc., then you are in the best position to show out and prove that you're good. So if you're Miami, you tell them that flatly. It's like, this isn't about emotions. It's about where you're best suited. And look, you ended up where you're best suited.
I feel like you've taken a very positive approach from a Heat perspective here.
Well, I mean, it's just like, we've been through this. Like the idea that, I'm old enough to remember when Juwan Howard was here and then he wasn't, so it's like, it happens. And I'd rather be, again, I'm a journalist, but I'd rather be the fan of a team that actually has a chance with these players, that, like, for all the, the Boston hullabaloo and that franchise, like, yeah, they don't trade for, who do they trade? They trade for finishing pieces, right? And so the big trade was Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, and they did that. But like, Miami is in that mix all the time. People want to come down here, and it's not like, it wasn't an anti-Pat Riley thing. It wasn't an anti-Miami Heat thing. It just happened to be, it was like, hey, this is where this guy wants to go. We're not following that game. We're not falling for that game, and we're going to move him where we want. And like, the reason everybody thought it was going to Miami is because that's the way this thing always works, all 95% of the time. And so why wouldn't it work with Damian Lillard when he gave you the extra years and was, I'm Portland, da-da-da. And so it was a shock to everybody. It's not so, but again, if you're Miami, it's not the end of the world. Damian, like, did you watch the NBA Finals last year and say, damn, Miami Heat could really use a small scoring guard? No. You said they need some size to match up with Jokic a little bit, maybe some shooters that are hitting and you don't have to roll the dice on every playoff series. But you didn't need somebody else that wasn't a great defender, that was going to shoot 45% of his shot, hit 45% of his shots from distance. It's like, all right, if you get Damian Lillard to add to that, amazing. But you're not going to just say that's what we need, so let's give up something legitimate for it, or think it's like a failure if you don't get him. Because the last time they went and got the point guard as the main piece, like, I don't even consider Goran. Goran was like an addition, right? He was like a finishing piece, if you will. Like, it was Tim Hardaway, and that was 1995. And like, yeah, they got some things done with it, but this league's going away from small guys, especially like $50 million small guys. So I'm not hurt. I'm not stunned. Like, it is what it is.
Good job, Israel. Tell everyone how they can see and hear you in the next little while. What do you got going on?
Let's see. I'm on Around the Horn today, and TBD from there.
Okay. You're wide open. You're available.
Well, I got a week where I'm gone most of the week next week, so it's probably going to be the week after that. So, I got some stuff going on where you probably won't see me for a few days.
All right. Good job, Israel. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Zaz.